Thank you, Michelle, and thank you all for attending today. I'm really grateful for all that you do for your students and excited to talk with you about some things that might make getting back to school a little easier. Read Live is a program that includes 4 programs. So just quickly to mention, we have Read Naturally Live, Word Warm-Ups Live, 1-Minute Reader Live, and Read Naturally Live Espanol. So Read Live includes all of them. So if a student has a license, they can access 1, 2, 3, or 4, any combination. Read Naturally Live works on fluency, comprehension, phonics, vocabulary. There's even support for spelling in the phonics series. Word Warm-Ups Live is a phonics program that has some phonics instruction and decoding practice. They work on phonics as well as fluency, spelling, and phonemic awareness. Our 1-Minute Reader Live is a totally independent reading program. Many of you are probably administrators, and maybe some of you implement the program with students and others maybe don't. If you are not someone who implements it with students, please let your teachers know about 1-Minute Reader Live, that independent program. It is a great thing to utilize on day 1 of school, because if the student is in the account, they can begin and has access to 1-Minute Reader Live, they can start working independently. And that frees teachers up to do some of that assessing and getting kids in the right spot in the interventions. So please be sure that people in your district are aware of that totally independent reading program, 1-Minute Reader Live. And then we do also have Read Naturally Live available if you're trying to teach students to read in Spanish. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about optimizing the staff module. We'll go into the account. I'm actually going to just log into an actual account and show you how to do many of those things, including account maintenance, licensing students and assigning lead teachers. We'll talk about some of the additional tools as well. Our tech expert, Michelle, luckily will be doing the information on single sign-on and importing. She is far superior to me with her knowledge on that. And then we'll talk very briefly about some distance learning and training options. So for optimizing your staff module, I'm actually going to pop out of this PowerPoint and go into the program so we can walk through some different features. I'm currently logged in to Read Live on the main page. And if you are new to your position, the best place for you probably to start once you log in is to go under this section that says Learn How to Get Started. Go to Orientation and Resources page. If you click on that button, it will let you know what your role is within the account. An account administrator is a person who is able to do these new school year features, that is able to do the things that are needed to do to start a new school year. So if you are a teacher, there may be some of these things that you're unable to do independently. And so you may need to ask somebody else. But regardless of what your role is, what will be listed underneath here are the step-by-step instructions of what you need to do in order to get started based on your role. So this is a very helpful getting started page within our account. So now I'm going to go to the home screen, and I want you to notice on the home screen that we have a number of different squares or rectangles, depending on how it auto fits. Each of these has a title, and under the title is a bulleted list. That bulleted list tells you what you can do within that section. We also have the same titles in a drop-down menu in the upper left-hand corner. So if you notice, the first one, account and school information, is the first on your list. It's also the first tile that you see on your screen. So we'll go ahead and go into account and school information. I want to give you a little bit of information about this. For example, you are able to update your account information from here. If you needed to change the name of your school, you can do so simply by typing in this box. You can also adjust who the main account contact is based on who is in this drop-down menu if you were to need to do that. Sometimes you will have a school who is new to either, sometimes it's new to the district, but more often you may have a school that didn't use Read Live in the past and is going to this school year that needs to be added. So in order to add a school, you simply click on the Add School button. and then enter the school's name. And now you have an option to either reserve the exact number of licenses for a particular school or allow schools to use any available licenses within the account. The easiest thing to do is to let them use any available licenses in the account, especially for account administrators. So unless you've been told otherwise, just leave it as is with that top option selected. However, sometimes schools purchase separately and they want to make sure that their 34 licenses are for them and them alone. And so if you do need to reserve specific number of licenses for each school, you can do that by selecting the reserve exactly this many licenses and then putting the number in that box. Okay. If a school is no longer going to use the program, then you can just delete them. So for example, if you wanted to delete test school, they don't have any licenses assigned to students, then you just click the delete button. And when it says, are you sure you want to delete the selected school, you would click yes, if you do indeed want to delete them. I want you to also notice up here where I've just highlighted, it tells you information about your accounts, including how many licenses there are total, how many licenses are available. Notice that there's a little blue circle next to licenses available, and there's an I in there. Any place you see that, clicking on that gives you more information about that field. So that's kind of your crutch, if you will, to help you remember different things. You're also given your subscription expiration date, and your account number is listed in here as well. So all of those things can be found under school administration. If you are a teacher instead of an account administrator, you don't have this section. So if you're saying, well, when I log in, I don't have that, that's because you're a teacher. So if you do need to be able to do these functions, then you need to talk to whomever at your school is in charge of the account and see if that's possible for you to have ability to do that. If you need to make changes, for example, if Pinewood needs to have licenses reserved for them alone, you're able to do that by clicking on the last or on the name of the school, and then you can come in here and make a change to the school being allowed to use any available license or only being reserved the specific number. We have a sorting and filtering tool that I want to show you. So I'm going to go back to the home page, and I'm just going to go into the staff administration as an example. I want you to notice that there are headings on top of each column. Okay, and the titles of the headings, of course, vary. And for example, we start with last name, first name, user ID, and so forth. We have sorting and filtering capabilities. So my list is very short, so it isn't a concern. But if you're in charge of a large district, you're going to have a really big list of staff. You're going to have a really big list of students, and you don't want to have to poke through all of them. So sorting and filtering are two options for you. If you simply click on the heading, the name, the title of the column, it will sort things based on alphabetical or numerical in order. And if you click on it twice, it will flip. So we have A to B or Z to A. I mean, A to Z or Z to A. It will switch the opposing way. So that's one way to clump people together, whether it be by the school they're assigned to or organize it alphabetically, however you want to do it. Any column can be clicked on and sorted that way so that they will be grouped together. That might be sufficient for some of you. Others might have so many that you need to just get rid of a large group. So for example, if you only want to see the teachers who have the last name Hayes, you can type in the name, click the apply, and now notice that other staff member is no longer in here because now I'm only seeing the people that I have filtered to see. Notice there's a little picture of a funnel next to last name. That tells me, hey, there's a filter here. Go ahead and reset it. and then all your staff members will come back. This is the same function, whether you're looking at staff members or students or any category, they have these different sorting and filtering capabilities within any section. One thing that will likely happen, that you will likely be asked about, is resetting passwords. It might be asked to you in a different manner. Some teachers might say, I don't have a password. I never got a password. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't get an email. What happens when a staff member is added, if I click the Add Staff Member button and I enter a new staff member, as soon as I click Save and Add Another or Save and Close, an email goes directly to the staff member, to the email address that I entered for that staff member. Okay. Sometimes teachers, especially if they don't know that email's coming, they don't see it. Some of them delete it because they think it's junk. Sometimes it does get stuck in spam or junk folders. So you can say to your colleagues, please go check your spam and junk folder. If you cannot find it, let me know. Okay. And if they cannot find it, you can click the reset button next to their name. And by next to, I mean way over to the right. You can click that reset button and a new email will be sent to them. And then they will be able to log in as a teacher and do the tasks that teachers are required to do. Okay, so that reset button is the way to get them a new email. All right. So in one of your handouts, we have this information that I just provided you. If you look at, you have two handouts. One handout has a screenshot of all the slides or all of the demo screens that I'm showing. The other handout is kind of a quick start guide, if you will. It provides you with different sections. As you can see, optimizing your staff module, updating count information. That's what we started with. We walked through this process by clicking on account administration. I showed you where you can change names, where you can add schools, where you can decide whether or not schools have access to all licenses or just the ones assigned to them. You can delete schools. We also talked through sorting and filtering. So here is on the school page, you can click on the heading and that will sort numerically or alphabetically, or you can filter by clicking on those three horizontal lines that's right before the heading name. If you click on that, that allows this little drop-down menu where you can select a specific, either the beginning of what you're looking for or the entire word, click apply, and then you only have that one school or whatever it is you're looking for will be narrowed down. So now we're going to talk just a little bit about account maintenance. And again, we're going to go into the program to do that. And I will pop back over here. And in account maintenance, the first thing we want to talk about is, get myself back to the home screen, is what to do at the beginning of a new school year. So I'm going to go under the student administration tile. And I want you to notice there is a tile that is titled New School Year Administration. Okay, this is a very important aspect or component for people who are in charge of managing the administrative side. If I click on New School Year Administration, I want you to notice that this happens at the beginning of a new school year for all students that are currently within the account. Okay. It is very important, if you decide to do this, you need to be very sure that your teachers have not already done this. So if you are a school that started on August 1st and you know your teachers have already been in there playing with their students, this is not likely something you want to do. Because what will happen is with one click, you can advance all the students by one grade. You can remove all the homeroom assignments from all the students, and then you can either remove their licenses and lead teachers, or you can retain the licenses and lead teachers. So if your colleagues have gone in and brought Jimmy from 3rd grade up to 4th grade and has already been doing that, you don't want to also do this. But this time of the year, most schools throughout the country are not at that point. Removing all licenses and lead teachers will do just that. It will strip all the licenses from the students and it will take away all their lead teachers, but that makes it possible for teachers to log in, grab the students that are theirs and assign them to themselves. Okay, so teachers do have that capability if the students don't have a license and a lead teacher already assigned. Okay, retaining them. This is very common in a situation, for example, if this program is used in a special education in a school and there's one special education teacher and she's assigned to the students when they're second graders, third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders. It makes sense for them to keep that teacher because it's not changing. So depending on your situation, you may make a different decision for that. When you decide which one to do, you click save and close. And it says, warning, you're going to get this just to make sure you know what you're doing. You cannot undo this action. Okay, so click change all students or not if it's not the right thing for you to do within your account. So again, that was under the account maintenance. And we went under school coordinators. Oh, sorry. We went under, here it is, we went under student administrators and then, or student administration. And then from student administration, that's where we found that new school year administration tile. And here is exactly what that looks like, what we just saw within the actual program. Okay, so now let's talk briefly about licenses and lead teachers. For those of you who are totally new to this, a license is required for a student to work in the program. And so you can see in the account, let me just get back over there. When I go to home page, under student administration, if I click on student setup, here is a complete list of my students. So you can see with a large list as this, if I click on grade, I'm just reminder of sorting and filtering, click on grade and it will put students in order of their grade. If I only want to see my third graders, I can click third grade and now everybody else has fallen off. So here's a bigger list to view that sorting and filtering. But what I'm talking about here is licensing. Notice in this column, it says RNL license. These students says not licensed. If I click on it, it will show me if a student is licensed, they would all rise to the top. So currently all of these students are without a license, okay? When a student used the program last year, if he's no longer going to use it, you do not need to delete him. You do not ever need to delete a student. You can simply make the student inactive and take their license away. Just click on the student's last name. You can move them to inactive and you can, instead of it saying yes in this column, you would switch it to no. And that takes the license away. But the data on the student remains in the account, okay? Because you want the historical data, okay? Then that license can be used with another student. So this can be done at the beginning of the year and it can be done in mid-year, right? Hopefully by winter, some intervention kids won't need the intervention anymore. And you can take the licenses away from those kids and give them to different students. If you have a student, notice that there's a status. So here we have inactive. And the student cannot be assigned a license until they're active. So that's required. You are able to select a number of students at a time or hold the shift key down and select, instead of having to select each one individually, you're able to select groups. You can, by selecting all of these, change the school for selected, change the homeroom teacher, change the grade. So if you decide you don't want to do it for all students at once through that feature I just showed you in the new school year administration, you can still do it for students. You can still remove their licenses. You can still assign teachers and you can do it for more than one kid at a time. But it's more than just one click. Okay, so that one click option is the benefit in there. All right, so we just talked about licensing. Remember, student licensing, I should show you this. there is a tile that's listed as student licensing. So I'm going to show you this within the account, but when you click on that, it tells you, it brings you to the licensed students at, and you have to select a specific school. And then you can see which ones are licensed, which ones aren't. So I'm going to go back into that account. And that's under student administration, and here is student licensing. So under student licensing, notice no students appear on my screen, and that's because I haven't selected the name of a school. Okay, here I've got all these students in here. And so from here, I can remove licenses from it selected. I can change lead teachers for selected. Okay, so I can do these things for 1, 2, or 100 students at a time. Okay. All right. So that information on your 3-page handout is under lead teachers. Now we're going to go into importing. Michelle, let me just get, Michelle's going to take over the importing section because, as I mentioned, she is much more skilled and knowledgeable than I am about those things. So I am going to hand the mic back over to Michelle, and she can walk us through an import and talk about SSO.
Okay, hello everybody. Okay, so one way to enroll a group of students into Read Live is to use our proprietary import process using a CSV file that's populated with your student data. A CSV file can be created from a number of applications, but today we're going to be using Excel. And just a couple of notes to that. So if your account has multiple schools in it, so you have 5 or 6 schools, a separate import is required for each school. Okay, so if you have 5 schools, we have to have 5 import files, and we'll schedule 5 imports. And then another note I want to say is this login will allow students, once it's done and imported and completed, the student login page is readlive.readnaturally.com/login. That's where your students will log in. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to walk Claire through the process of creating and importing a set of students. So Claire, if you could, you're already logged into our account. If you could navigate to the student administration page, and then we're going to go to student import. And again, if you're a teacher, you will not see this page. This will only be available to account administrators and school coordinators. I want to point out that you can find out how to find instructions and get your own import template. So let's do that. So let's open this template. Can we go back to that, the login page? Yeah, so they're in step 1. So we're in the import page. Step 1 of our directions is telling us what to do. And we have a link to a template that you can use. So Claire's going to click on that link. And that brought us to this page. This is very detailed information and instruction on this format and information in this template file. I'm going to just, without going through each and every one of these steps, we'll go to page 2 of this document, and we have a link to our template there located as an Excel spreadsheet. So if we click it and the template is downloaded, we can open it. And here, Claire's going to just expand our columns so that we can see them all. There are several headings, so all of the headings need to be left as they are. Just leave them as they are. The only fields that require data, however, are student first name, student last name, student grade, student user ID, and student password. Claire, I'd also like you to insert a new column here, and we're going to label it student space email. This is an optional field, and it is an optional piece of data to have, but if it is highly recommended. So if your students have email addresses, please put them in, although they are not required. So, which is why Claire did not highlight that field. So to explain a little bit about the user ID and password field that are located here, this is the user ID and password that your students will use to log in to Read Live. Okay, and that, remember that login page, readlive.readnaturally.com/login. This is where a student is going to enter this information. So use something that they're familiar with. If you have a number of students, you maybe are using student IDs or something like that. If you are a smaller account and you don't have as many students, you may be using just first initial, last name. It is free form. The specifics of the number of characters are in the previous document that we saw. But I would also just recommend whatever you use for the student user ID, use as well for the password. This will just ease the process of logging in for your students. They will just enter the same data twice. So once all the students and their data has been entered, that import file, you'll save it, you'll give it your own name, and you're done with that import file. I have created one in our, so if we can go back to the application and we're going to browse, and Claire, if you can browse to OneDrive, I'll go to OneDrive, find your marketing folder. And then webinars, it'll be in our presentation materials. So this is, I'm going to start with one that has an error. So we'll start with the import with error. This is a demonstration. So I created this file. I'm now scheduling it to be imported. So you just browse to it and you're going to select the school that it belongs to. And we're going to choose Northview for this one. And we're just going to choose next. So go ahead. Yep. Click next. And here is this the with errors or without? Oh, no, this is with errors. You're right. We're right. We're good. We're good. Here's the students and here's what it thinks it's going to import. So let's click next and choose yes. Oh, and it says, oh, there's errors and they're highlighted in yellow. You can hover your mouse over the yellow error, give it a second or so, and the error will populate and tell you what happened. So this is just telling us this student already exists with this name in our account. So we would have to fix this so that we would have to fix this before we can import. So we would cancel the import right here. And now we'd go back to our Excel document, we'd do some looking, we'd do some researching to see what the problem was, correct those problems, save your file again, and then we do schedule another import, try it again. So this time we're going to go with without errors. And so now this is my new list. I'll just click next. And it says it's going to be scheduled. The imports are scheduled overnight. It is a 24-hour process, but then at the beginning of the morning tomorrow, you will be able to license those students and give them a lead teacher. We can then print a password report if you've forgotten what maybe you have entered. So we could just quickly click on reports from our dashboard or homepage, and then student passwords. And why don't we have passwords? Are we in the, go back home? Oh, there's nobody licensed. That's why. I apologize. So like students won't have a password, or we won't be able to print a password report until students are licensed with a lead teacher. But again, reports, student passwords, simply select your students, generate report at the top, and that's going to give you a list. That is an import using our proprietary import process. Please reach out to us if you have questions, support@readnaturally.com or 1-800-788-4085. Option 3, we welcome your questions. Thank you for being here, and I'll turn it over to Claire to finish up. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. So just a couple more comments about some additional teacher tools. I just wanted to mention we do have something called a waiting list. This was designed during distance learning. What happens with the waiting list is if a student is on a step where they're waiting for a teacher, there will be a red circle in the corner of that. And when you click on waiting list, the student's name who is waiting for you will be listed, and the teacher is able to click log in as, and that will allow the student will get kicked out and the teacher will be logged in. A separate application is needed if you plan to utilize this in a distance learning environment. There is no screen sharing within the Read Live application. If you're going to be screen sharing, you need to have a Zoom or some sort of a screen sharing application. Like I said, it was designed for distance learning. If you're in an online school, it may be very useful for that. But in-person learning tends to not need it. All right. So I am going to, Michelle, I did want to just mention with single sign-on, we have some supporting for ClassLink, Clever, and Google Classroom. I encourage you to call tech support to get some help with this if you are trying to do any single sign-on. Michelle, is there something you want to mention about that before, or is that all we need?
No, but yeah, I will mention quickly. So just quickly to say, for ClassLink, it is a full rostering and single sign-on solution. So we can automatically roster and single sign-on with ClassLink. Clever is a single sign-on only application. If you are familiar with it from last year, it is much improved. We have made some improvements, so that's a good thing. And Google Classroom has been around for quite a while. But again, in any of those 3 options you need help with or have questions, please reach out to us. We can help you out.
All right, excellent. And then, of course, we have a lot of different training resources on our website. There's a training tab. My cursor is circling it right now. It's a drop-down menu with all sorts of free training options. So if you have teachers or you yourself need support in getting familiar with how to utilize the program with students, those are good resources for you. We also have a help page, readnaturally.com /read-live-help. And that provides you not only with written instructions, but video instructions. Sometimes there's pictures. So that can be a very helpful resource for you as well. But as Michelle mentioned, support@readnaturally.com is the best place to go with your questions. You're going to get a person right away. They respond quickly and they're fabulous. So please do reach out to them. We are out of time, so we don't have time for questions today. So if you do have a question, please contact us at the 800 number in the upper right-hand corner or at the email address under the questions icon. Thank you for all that you do, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session or hearing from you as your questions arise. Have a great day.